Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Scrapbook.com's Gingerbread collection. Scrapbook.com has a brand new collection called Gingerbread, and it's absolutely adorable. I have the paper pad, a stamp set, and also a die set. I'll show you the fun paper pad first. This is A2 size. It includes 40 sheets. You'll receive 5 sheets of each pattern. The papers are all double-sided. I'll show one side first, then flip it around so you can see the other side. There are so many adorable designs in this collection, lots of traditional Christmas colors along with the fun addition of pink. I just love using pink for Christmas cards. Several designs feature the fun gingerbread cookies. There's polka dots, some stripes, tone on tone. A couple of the designs have sentiments. One is Happy Holidays, the other is Ho Ho Ho. And on the back side of several of the sheets, there's also a solid color. There's a red. Earlier I showed a dark green. And there's also a brown, which is the perfect color for the gingerbread cookies. For my cards, I tried to use a mix of all the different patterns. But the front sheet that had the gingerbread house and the Happy Holidays, I ended up not using that since the back side had the gingerbread brown solid. And I ended up using all 5 sheets for the gingerbread cookies. Here's a look at the Sweet Christmas stamp set. There are several different sentiments, 4 small images, a candy cane, a gingerbread girl, and also a gingerbread man and a snowman. The final item in the bundle is the die set. This is gingerbread cookies, and this is such a fun set. You can assemble 4 different images, the gingerbread man, the gingerbread girl, a snowman, a tree, and it also includes the sentiment Happy Holidays. It has the word and the outline, and the fun thing about the outline for the words, it also fits the Happy Holidays stamps. But the outline dies for the other images do not work with the images on the stamp set. My favorite sentiment on the stamp set is Have a Sweet Christmas. Works perfectly with all the fun gingerbread cookies. If you are interested in the gingerbread bundle or any products I use in this video, I do have links in the description box below. I'll be making 10 different cards, and for the most part, I'm sticking with the products in the gingerbread bundle. But I will be bringing in some additional dies and also using Scrapbook.com's smooth cardstock paper pads. I'll also be using some card sketches for inspiration. The first sketch is from MFT. This is number 656. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in my video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, I have some white shimmer cardstock for the background. Using Pretty Pink Posh's Pure Snowflake die, I added a fun snowflake design. The featured pattern paper has a pink background with snowman cookies, there's marshmallow cookies, little donut cookies. I layered everything on some of the red pattern paper. The backside has the Ho 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 sentiment. Using the same red paper, I cut a stitched circle die cut. I'll adhere that to the top of the pattern paper piece. I've already stamped out the sentiment, sending warm hugs, and the ink color I'm using for most of the cards is Scrapbook.com's gingerbread ink. It matches perfectly with their gingerbread paper. Now I'll start assembling a snowman cookie. I used the brown solid for the background, so that's the cookie portion. The icing, I have some white cardstock for the main body of the snowman. Use some light pink cardstock for the hat and scarf. And I believe this pink color is from the Pink's Smooth Cardstock paper pad. I cut out the eyes and mouth from black cardstock, the buttons from the same red cardstock, and I use orange cardstock for the carrot nose. Now some of these pieces are super tiny, so I am using an embellishment wand to pick them up. I'll first put a small drop of Barely Art glue down, pick up those small die cut pieces, then press them in place. And with liquid glue, you do have that little bit of wiggle room so you can get everything adjusted before the glue really dries. I am using scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays to keep all those little die cut pieces organized and safe. As you can see, those pieces are so tiny and it's very easy to lose them when you're crafting. Once my snowman is all assembled, I'll put glue on the back and adhere it on the red circle die cut. For a final finishing touch, I want to add a little bit of sparkle to the pom-pom on the snowman's hat. I'm using scrapbook.com's Pops of Color. This is the glitter snowflake color. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. For card number 2, the sketch is from Sketch Saturday. It's number 373. Now this sketch is designed to be horizontal, but I'm going to switch that up and make a vertical card. The background of my card features this fun pattern paper with lots of gingerbread cookies and the brown background. For the 2 narrow strips that go across the card, using some cardstock I have in my stash, this soft yellow color, I'll layer the gingerbread pattern paper on some dark brown cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add this piece on another pattern paper piece, a light yellow with this fun wavy design. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. I've already stamped out the sentiment, Have a Sweet Christmas, and I used the gingerbread ink color. Using a corner chomper, I'll round all 4 corners on the sentiment piece and also the brown cardstock layer. I will be popping up the sentiment using scrapbook.com's 1mm foam roll. This is my new favorite foam dimension. I love having that 1mm thickness. Adds just a tiny bit of dimension without it being too bulky. Although they also have a 2mm and a 3mm. If you like to make shaker cards, the 3mm is perfect. For embellishments, I'm adding some white enamel dots. These are from Alta New. It's their essential black and white pack. I'll put 3 underneath the sentiment on the left side and 2 on the right side of the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 2. For card number 3, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 526. I selected 2 pattern papers for the background. The polka dot stripe paper at the very bottom, and the top portion is green with an assortment of fun Christmas cookies. I'll layer both of those pieces on some red cardstock, and instead of using the backside of the pattern paper, I am using some of scrapbook.com's smooth cardstock. The red that works really well with this collection is from their Peppermint Smooth Cardstock paper pad. I didn't want to use up all the backside of the Ho 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 pattern paper. For a little bit of separation between the 2 background pattern papers, I did add a narrow strip of the red cardstock. Then I put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 inch of the white card base showing. For the image box, I used some white shimmer cardstock, layered it on the same red cardstock, and I'll adhere it on the center of the card. I'll be stamping the sentiment directly onto the card, so I am using a MISTI. This is the Rose Quartz color MISTI, which is exclusive to scrapbook.com. The sentiment stamp is Merry Everything and Happy Always, but I'll only be stamping the words Merry Everything. So I'll get that lined up at the bottom of my image panel. Then using some of scrapbook.com's mint tape, I'll mask out the rest of the sentiment. Pull out scrapbook.com's gingerbread ink color, ink up that portion of the sentiment, remove the mint tape, then I'll stamp it directly onto the card. And to help get even pressure while stamping, I'm using the Stampendable stamping tool from LDRS. It's a rose quartz color that matches the rose quartz MISTI. And I did end up inking the sentiment one more time to get a nice solid impression. I'll be adding one of the gingerbread tree cookies, cut out the background using that brown gingerbread pattern paper color. And I used some green cardstock for the icing of the tree. I am using a pair of reverse tweezers to hold that delicate piece while I put glue on the back. Then I'll adhere it on the front of the tree. So it looks like the tree cookie was decorated with some green icing. I'm not a big fan of baking, and decorating cookies is definitely not my gift. So paper cookies are perfect for me. Using Scrapbook.com's Pops of Color, this is the Rudolph Red color, I'll add some ornaments on my tree cookie. My teenage daughter has really gotten into baking lately. She loves finding different recipes online. One of her latest creations was handmade cinnamon rolls, including the icing, and they smelled so good. I have a lot of food allergies and sensitivities, so I couldn't enjoy them, but everyone that tried one loved them. For card number 4, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 22. The background of my card will feature the pattern paper that has the sentiment Happy Holidays all over it in a rainbow of colors. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, I'm using the dark green pattern paper, and this is the back side of the Happy Holidays paper. I'll first layer the sentiment pattern paper on some more of the dark green cardstock. Then I'll add the narrow strip of green cardstock across the card, not quite in the center, it's a little bit lower toward the bottom. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For the 2 narrow strips on the right side of the card that'll go behind the image, using more of the red smooth cardstock. And I did layer those red pieces on more of the same red cardstock. It adds just that little extra detail. I'll adhere both of the red pieces using some glue. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I did use some white shimmer cardstock. I'll adhere that in place with some glue. Now I'll start assembling one of the gingerbread man cookies. Cut out the body from some of the brown gingerbread pattern paper. Use some of the dark green pattern paper for the frosting squiggles on his arms and legs. White cardstock for the buttons, eyes, and nose. And more of the red paper for his bow tie. The die set also has the option for a scarf and a little Santa hat. After adding all 4 of the frosting squiggles, I'll adhere his mouth. Next, I'll add the bow tie, and you can also use the bow for the gingerbread girl. Just put it on top of her head. Now I'll add the gingerbread man's eyes. First, add the small drop of glue. Use an embellishment wand to pick up those tiny pieces, then press them in place. And I'll do the same thing for the buttons. And I'm adding just 2 buttons. I've already stamped out the sentiment, "Oh what fun." Use more of Scrapbook.com's gingerbread ink color. I will be popping up the gingerbread man using more of the 1mm foam. I'll first add a longer piece of foam, putting it behind the head and one of the legs. Then I'll cut some smaller pieces to put behind the other leg and the arms. Now I'll remove the release paper, add my gingerbread man on the center of the circle die cut. Before adhering the sentiment, I will put some foam dimension just on the left side. Then I'll lay the sentiment on the card, run my finger across it, and I realize I do need to add some scrap cardstock on the very right side in order to keep it nice and level. I had a small scrap piece of white cardstock, so I'm using that, although the cardstock won't be visible. Now I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the cardstock portion of the sentiment, and adhere it on the left side of the gingerbread man. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 4. I love the gingerbread man image, so cute. Now moving on to card number 5. The card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 55. I selected 2 pattern papers and also a pink smooth cardstock. For the background of my card, I'm using some white shimmer cardstock, and I'll be layering it on some red cardstock. I love the pattern paper with all the gingerbread men cookies and red hearts, so I use that as the featured piece on the very left side of the card. using some of the pink smooth cardstock for the upper right hand corner and the Ho 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 pattern paper in the lower left hand corner. And has anyone noticed my oops yet? Because I haven't at this point in the video. I layered the background piece on some more of the red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, added my card front onto a card base, and now I discovered my little oops. I almost made a card with the sentiment "O-O-O" instead of "Ho Ho Ho." Luckily, I was able to peel up that piece, add a little more ATG tape on the back, and reattach it correctly. I've already stamped out the sentiment on a stitch circle die cut. Have a sweet Christmas. I have foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment following the design of the card sketch. For a little extra detail underneath the sentiment, I'm adding a pink bow, and the bow die is from scrapbook.com's Bow Toppers set. This is one of my favorite die sets. I even have it on my scrapbook.com storefront. If you weren't aware, I have a storefront at scrapbook.com with lots of my favorite products. And I do have a link in the description box if you want to check it out. For embellishments, I'm using Honeybee Stamps Crystal Glimmer Enamel Stickers. They're clear, but they have some beautiful sparkly glitter embedded inside. I'll put 3 in the upper right hand corner and 2 in the lower left hand corner. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 5. For card number 6, I won't be using a card sketch. I have this fun pattern paper for the background, beautiful pink with cupcakes, a few fun treats in jars, there's cookies and little candies. I'll be layering that piece on some red cardstock. Across the front of the panel, I'm adding a piece of red cardstock, and I'll layer it first on some of scrapbook.com's smooth vellum, then again on some white shimmer cardstock. The vellum layer will add just that little extra detail. I'll layer the background panel on the red cardstock before adding the red strip across the card. After adhering the red cardstock piece, I noticed there was a tiny bit overhanging, so I did go and trim that portion off. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. This card will be featuring another gingerbread tree cookie. The little icing detail, I use more of the white shimmer cardstock. Just adhere those two pieces together. For a sentiment, I'm using the Happy Holidays from the die set. I use some darker pink cardstock for the words and white shimmer cardstock for the outline. Just glue those two pieces together. And the pink cardstock for the words is from scrapbook.com's Pink's Smooth Cardstock Paper Pad. I love that you can use the word with or without the outline. For this card, it really does need the outline so the sentiment pops against the red background. After adhering holidays, now I'll start working on the word happy. I will be popping up the tree and also the sentiment using foam dimension. For the tree, I'm using the 1mm foam dimension. Just cut some small pieces so I have good coverage on the back side. Then I'll remove the release paper and add the tree cookie on the left side of the card. Since part of the sentiment will be overlapping the tree cookie, I am switching to scrapbook.com's 2mm thickness foam. It's so nice that they offer a variety of different foam thicknesses. I'll add one strip on the back of both of the words, remove the release paper, then adhere it on the right side of the gingerbread cookie tree. And only the letter H on the word holidays will sit on top of the cookie. For a final finishing touch, using a scrap piece of the red cardstock, I'll cut a banner and adhere it in the upper right hand corner. I'll first cut a fishtail on the bottom, cut the right side in slightly at an angle, do the same thing on the other side, then adhere it in place. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 6. For card number 7, I selected 2 pattern papers. I have the sentiment Ho 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 paper and this fun tree cookie paper. I'll be adding both of these pieces on some dark brown cardstock, and I have the tree paper just slightly wider than the sentiment paper. And I did make sure to not put the sentiment paper the wrong way. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back, add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next I'll add a pink cardstock strip across the card, but first I'll layer it on some of Scrapbook.com's smooth vellum. I love using vellum. It adds a very subtle detail. You just have to be careful where you add adhesive since it will show through on the vellum. For an image box, I use Scrapbook.com's nested hexagon die set. The smaller hexagon, I use some white shimmer cardstock, and the layering hexagon, I use more of the dark brown cardstock. I'll adhere the two pieces together with some glue, then add the hexagon on my card. This card will be featuring both the gingerbread man cookie and the gingerbread girl cookie. And just to save time on the video, I've already assembled them. I have foam dimension on the back. I use the 1mm foam thickness. I'll remove the release paper and add both of the cookies on the hexagon. I've already stamped out the sentiment, "Oh, what fun." I cut the left side at an angle just for some extra interest. Before adhering the sentiment, I will add some foam dimension just on the left side where it goes off of the hexagon. Then I'll adhere it in place with some glue. For a final finishing touch, I'll cut a small banner from brown cardstock and adhere it in the upper right hand corner. And I'm cutting it the same way I did on the previous card. I think adding just those small banners really helps balance out the card. And since I always have some scrap pieces of cardstock lying around, this is a great way to use up some of those scraps. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. It's one of my favorites. Now moving on to card number 8. Using the fun polka dot paper for the background, layering it on some of the dark green pattern paper. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I'll be adding a large arch die cut. I use Scrapbook.com's nested arches die set, and I cut it out from white shimmer cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it to my card. This card will be featuring several of the tree gingerbread cookies. I've already assembled 2 of them and partially assembled the third. I used the gingerbread brown pattern paper, some white shimmer cardstock for that thin icing layer, and this time I'll be inlaying the rest of the icing using some pink cardstock. I love how easy it is to inlay the pieces, and all 4 of those tree pieces are different, so there's no question of which piece goes where. I think this would also be fun with some cute pattern paper. Now I'll add all 3 trees on the arch die cut, and I decided not to pop them up with foam. Instead, I'll be gluing them down. I'll put the one in the very back center first, then I'll add the tree on the left side, and finally the tree on the right side. And I'm putting each of the trees at a different angle and slightly lower than the other. For a sentiment, I've already stamped this out, Merry Everything and Happy Always. Stamped it on some green cardstock that matches one of the green polka dots in the background. I'll add some foam dimension on the back side using the 1mm foam thickness. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it at the bottom of the card, overlapping the 2 lower trees. For a final finishing touch, adding a little extra detail to all 3 trees using Scrapbook.com's Pops of Color. This is the glitter snowflake color. So it's clear and it has that little bit of glitter inside. Scrapbook.com has a fun variety of pops of color. Some have glitter, some don't. They add that perfect finishing touch. You can use them like embellishments, and it's fun because you can customize the size of the drops. I usually let my card sit for a few hours. Before mailing it, I would let it sit overnight, but it does depend on humidity and temperature for how long the drops will take to dry. For card number 9, the card sketch is from Mojo Monday. This is number 546. I selected the pattern paper that has lots of present cookies all over it for the background. layering it on some green cardstock. For the two narrow strips and the small square, I'm using more solid cardstock. Some of this is from scrapbook.com and some of it's from my stash. I use red cardstock for the wider strip, some green cardstock for the narrow strip, and brown cardstock for the square piece. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I did use some white shimmer cardstock. I'll adhere this circle die cut down using some glue. I'm using the Happy Holiday sentiment from the die set, and I've already assembled it. I used red cardstock for the words and vellum for that outline piece. I'll put glue on the back, being careful not to get glue on the vellum, and adhere the sentiment on the circle die cut. I laid the word holidays on the circle, that way I could get the placement correct for the full sentiment. Then I'll adhere the word happy first, and then holidays. For embellishments, I'm using Spellbinder's Dimensional Dots. This is their red and green set. I'm using just the red color. I'll put 3 in the upper right hand corner and 2 in the lower left hand corner. So there is my finished card. This is card number 9. For card number 10, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 612. I selected the fun gingerbread cookie pattern paper for the background. For the two narrow strips, one I'm using some white shimmer cardstock and the other I'm using the light yellow wavy pattern paper. I'll layer both of those pieces on some dark brown cardstock. Before adhering the yellow pattern paper piece, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock behind it just on the left side where it goes off of the white strip. Then I'll adhere it in place with some glue. Now I'll layer this piece on some dark brown cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For most of my cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch. If you prefer a wider cardstock layer, you could add 1/4 of an inch. I've already stamped out the sentiment, sending warm hugs, and I'll be adhering it on the left side of the card. I decided to add a little bit of sparkle behind the sentiment. I used a heart die from scrapbook.com, and the glitter paper is from their Mixed Metals glitter paper pack. It's a beautiful gold color. I'll first adhere the sentiment on the heart, then I'll flip it over, put foam dimension on the back just on the very left side, not putting any foam dimension on the right side where it'll be sitting on that wavy pattern paper strip. Then I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the back of that right side, and adhere it in place. Scrapbook.com's glitter paper is super sparkly, but the nice thing about it, none of the glitter sheds. And just like all of their paper pads, it's available in multiple sizes. For embellishments, I'm using Spellbinder's Color Essential Gems, the gold mix. There's 2 different shades of gold, and I'm using the lighter shade since it matches the gold glitter paper. I'll put 3 of the gems in the upper right hand corner on the white strip and 2 in the lower left hand corner underneath the sentiment. There are 4 different sizes of gem stickers in the pack. I'm using the 3 smallest sizes. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 10. I used a variety of scrapbook.com smooth cardstock packs, and I forgot to show the Mixed Metals glitter paper, but I will have all of the products linked below. Now here's another look at the 10 cards I made using scrapbook.com's Gingerbread bundle. The paper pad is super cute. I love the stamp and die set, and you can easily make a ton of cards. And I have a bonus card over on scrapbook.com's channel. It was featured as part of their live stream. If you'd like to check it out, I will add a link for scrapbook.com's video in the description box below. It's always exciting to be a guest designer for scrapbook.com's live stream videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.